Hey everybody, it's Never, and I am doing a very controversial thing right now, or at least it has to do with a controversial thing. I've mentioned this a little bit before, and I'd say that a lot, but I wanted to talk today about loot boxes. And first of all, I wanted to tell you something about these drops that they're doing for Heroes of the Storm, if you play it at all. Link your Twitch account to your Blizzard account, blah, 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 and then go to Twitch and find literally any Heroes of the Storm stream, and put it on a tab in Chrome and mute it and leave it on, and you will get loot boxes. It's that simple. I have gotten like maybe a dozen loot boxes over the past week just by leaving it on. I mean, that's like I've averaged about 2 loot boxes a day just from doing that and from doing nothing else. Just leaving it on, even when I'm not here, even when my computer goes to screensaver, it's on in the background, and sure enough, every 12 hours or so, there's another loot box. Here's one right here. And so we're going to go ahead and take a look at what is in this. I have no idea what it's going to be. It's a common loot box. And okay, we've got a rare. Clunk, clunk, clunk. Let's see what it is. Okay, good. 25 shards. I will keep that. That's pretty worth it to me for a free loot box. What I wanted to talk about today was actually loot boxes. And there's a lot of different opinions about this on the internet, and I just wanted to sum up. Are loot boxes, are they okay? Are they bad? Are they good? Is it okay to have loot boxes in a game? Because there's a whole this whole controversy that happened with EA and with a bunch of other games and how it is. And so I want to say that first of all, you can't answer that question yes or no. It's too complex of a question, because there are too many variances and differences to things. So I want to talk about different types of loot boxes, because this is where it really comes down to. It matters. There are what I will call pure evil loot boxes, and it has to do with how you obtain the loot box and what you can get out of it. So if you can get something out of a loot box that gives you a tactical or a power advantage in a game, that's like type 1 evil for loot boxes. On the other hand, if the only thing the loot boxes contain are fun things like skins or even mounts or portraits, or something that looks different, something that's cool and has subjective value but doesn't give you an advantage in the actual gameplay, I would call that the at least not evil kind of loot box. I would call that the neutral kind of loot box. And then there's how you get the loot boxes. So you can get the loot boxes by playing the game, just by playing it. If you get them as a reward for an action you're going to perform anyway, I would say that's a good thing that a loot box can do. It's great. Free stuff. But if you have to spend in-game currency, so you've got to save up and get the loot box with an in-game currency, okay, I would say that that's neutral, because it is an in-game currency and you get that by playing the game. So it's sort of it's a roundabout way to do the first thing, and I would say that's neutral. But if you have to spend real money to get the loot boxes, I would say that that is evil. So we've got a good, a neutral, and an evil with how you obtain the loot box, and I would say a neutral and an evil with what's inside it. Because ultimately, people want stuff in games. And the way you go about getting it has a lot to do with whether or not I think loot boxes are okay. And so let's take a look at the best case scenario. The best case scenario is the good way of obtaining loot boxes and the neutral contents of the loot box. So you play the game, you get a loot box, and there's fun stuff in there, like skins and mounts and portraits and whatnot. Nothing that gives you an advantage. I would say that that's probably best case scenario for a loot box. It's just extra stuff, say, thanks for playing the game. There you go. Extra stuff. The worst case scenario is where you have to spend real money to get the loot box, and the results of the loot box can give you a tactical advantage. And so there's a lot of games out there that do that exact thing, that do the super evil loot boxes where you spend your hard-earned money to gamble at getting something that will give you an advantage in playing the game. And I think that should never happen ever. I think it's pretty despicable, really. But then let's take a look at how it is for Heroes in the Storm, because Heroes of the Storm is almost a good example of loot boxes. Almost. But there is a catch to it. So inside these loot boxes, you can have a variety of things. You can have actual heroes to play the game. You can get them for free in the loot box. In fact, I got one today, earlier today, in another free loot box I got. The one I just showed you is like my third one today. Earlier today, I got... Where is he? I think he's a specialist. Maybe he's not. Nope, he's an assassin. There he is. I got Hanzo in a free common loot box. Yeah, there you go. I suck at playing Hanzo. I'm not good at him at all. Maybe I'll get better, I don't know. But that was a pretty worthwhile reward. I got a whole hero out of my free loot box. That's great. And so most of the stuff in Heroes of the Storm, it's like, oh, you get a hero. You could say that that's a tactical advantage, but really, getting it in a loot box is a way that it gives you, it's like a free tactical advantage. Otherwise, you would just have to play the game, and so getting it from a loot box is actually even easier than how you would normally get it, so I wouldn't count that as a negative. And then you've got skins, which are just cool looking heroes. There's no actual, it doesn't change the function of, it doesn't make them more powerful or anything. It just makes them look different. Some of these skins I don't like at all. Some of them I think are just really great. And so it's subjective. And then you've got mounts, same thing. You get a mount when you start playing the game. There is no advantage to having one of these other than it looks cool. And then same thing with all of this stuff. All of these things give you no functional advantage except for that. But these cost this stuff called gems. Now, gems in almost every game is the same thing. You pay real money and you get gems. Usually you get like 10% or 1 per penny, you know, something like that for gems. Like this is 1,000 gems, and if we take a look at gems, okay, I can get, for about 10 bucks, I get about 1,000. It's actually a little bit better than that, because, you know, but if you go at the base level, it's like, yeah, it's, you know, 1 per penny. Cool. So, but stim packs, even though they're normally something you can only buy with gems, and they give you a tactical advantage, sort of. They don't actually make you win the game any better. All they do is level up your heroes faster and earn you more loot boxes, which don't give you a tactical advantage. So they don't give you a tactical advantage, but they make the game easier to progress in, but it's not progress that really matters. I suppose the only way that you could say that these actually give you progress in the game is if you're just starting out. A stim pack will get it to where you can play in the higher things like Hero League or Team League sooner, because you will be able to level up your characters faster. So that's like the only tactical advantage I can actually find that comes from these things. And indeed, it's the only tactical advantage that comes from gems, except for getting heroes sooner. So, and that's sort of a subjective tactical advantage, because if a new hero comes out and he's really strong and you can get that hero sooner, then that does give you a tactical advantage in some areas of gameplay, maybe. So it's kind of a gray area there. But anyway, all the contents of these loot boxes, with that exception with stim packs that I just sort of illustrated, which is potentially not the same as what I'm talking about. All of these things are just cosmetic. They're just fun. They just look interesting. They don't provide any functional advantage. And so the loot boxes in Heroes of the Storm are really great, but there is one weird little exception. And again, it's not a tactical advantage, but it is some of these things. Let's take a look at this Yrel bundle right here. Mad Jester Yrel. Now, let's go and find this thing, because it's a little different. You can buy it in this bundle, but let's go take a look at the Yrel skins right here. And if we look at Mad Jester, let's go back. If we look here at Mad Jester Yrel, you can try it out and whatnot, but there's this little thing here. This item can be purchased in a bundle with gems and is not available in loot chests or loot boxes. So some of the cosmetic things are only available with gems, which are only available to get with real money. But even that's not exactly true, because if you take a look at your progress, and now you'll get to see my really awful progress, because I am the most casual person on the planet with this game. See this? I've never played the game for real. All I do is play like AI scrub stuff. But anyway, not the point. Let's look at progression. Every 25 levels, what do I get? 150 gems. So if I wanted to, on a long enough timeline, I could obtain every possible reward in the game by getting gems, excluding the ones that you have to actually be really good at the game and rank up in the ranked system to get. There are some of those, but that's in, WoW has that too. So again, it's sort of a gray area, just like the stim packs, to where, yeah, there's some stuff you can only buy with gems. You could technically get them without spending real money, but it's probably not going to happen. And so it's a gray area. My point is that Heroes of the Storm's loot box system is one of the best I've ever seen, simply because nothing in it at all, nothing in it gives you any realistic functional advantage. All it does is give you a bunch of free stuff in the game. And there's some of these things, a few skins and a few mounts that are only available with gems. If you really want it that bad, they're not that expensive. So this is a good way to do it. We've talked about an evil way to do it, where it's pay to win. And it's even worse than pay to win when you're doing this stuff. It's even worse than pay to win to do with loot boxes, because it's pay to roll the dice to have a chance to win. And that's as bad as it gets. And so my point is, are loot boxes okay, or are they evil? It depends on how they're put in. I think that loot boxes can have a useful and a enjoyable, safe place in our gameplay, but only if it's done well and right. For example, only if it's done sort of the way that Heroes of the Storm does it. This is about as gray area of a system as I can really not have a problem with, because I've never felt like, oh man, I got a loot box and there wasn't anything cool in it, and I feel like I was cheated out of something. I've never felt that way, because the loot boxes, I mean, I could just save up, you could use gold, in-game gold, and I could save up and buy all the stuff that way. The game used to, be pretty much like that. But now, it's like, even when you get duplicates in the loot boxes, you get these shard things. And shard things, you can say, well, I really want this variant skin. Oh, he's 150 shards. So all the duplicates I get, they eventually add up to something I really want. And you can get almost everything with shards. You only can't get these things because they're only with gems. And so you can't shard them, you can't loot chest them. So this is a good way to do loot boxes. I don't really have a problem with this. I do have a problem with pay to win, or I do have a problem where the loot boxes can only be obtained with money, and there are things that are only in the loot boxes. It's kind of an interesting way to flip it on, because these things are only available, they're not available in the loot boxes, and that's the the negative side of it. But then there's other things where if it's only available in the loot boxes, and the loot boxes cost something other than simply playing the game, then that's even worse. So are loot boxes bad? No, but they can be done bad very easily. And so I'm going to reiterate something that a lot of people have talked about, but you have the power, you as a gamer, you have the power to influence the direction that this goes. Just like the problem where companies will release unfinished games and they will expect to be able to patch it up later and get everything to work right, or maybe they never do. That comes from people pre-ordering games too much. If you pre-order a game, then they have your money and they feel like they can do what they want, and it's something that, be very careful when you pre-order games, because it leads to this expectation that the players will be there, they will pay for the game even when it's not finished, and they'll do it to get these extra little rewards or whatever. If you're gonna pre-order a game, do it the day before it comes out. Do it at the last second that you can, to show them that they need to release games that are finished, that they can't force people to meet a deadline and make the game suffer. An excellent example of this is Mass Effect 3. Mass Effect 3 was rushed out, it was not done, and because of the timeline, it led to a very bad ending. You can do plenty of research to find out how all of that went. If enough people want me to go into the details on what went down with that, I'd be happy to make a video about it if you want to hear it. But the point is that pre-ordering games, too soon, it causes these problems. The same thing, if you buy things that you don't like from microtransactions, all it does is reinforce it. So if you hate the fact that this Yrel skin is only available with gems, the last thing you want to do is buy it. Vote with your wallet. Choose the thing, pay the company for the things that you like, and don't pay them for the things you don't. That's all I have to say. Loot boxes, it depends. They're not intrinsically good or bad, it's how you do it. Just like everything else, execution is what matters. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that this was an interesting discussion with you. If you agree, then let me know. If you disagree, let me know why and what your point of view is. I'd love to hear it. Okay, thanks, bye.